Okay, stop. Whatever you're doing right now, eating, scrolling, ignore your homework. I need you to stop. Because I'm about to tell you something that's going to completely change how you think about video games. Right now, there are 3.2 billion people on this planet who play video games. That's almost half of every human being alive. More people play video games than live in China and the United States combined. But here's the question nobody ever asks. Why? Why do humans, creatures who figured out agriculture, built the pyramids, went to the moon, why we spend billions of hours chasing dots on a screen? And more importantly, who is the absolute maniac who started all of this? Buckle up. This is episode 1 of Video Game History. And we are going deep. Before a single video game existed, before pixels, before controllers, before some guy blew into a cartridge hoping it would magically fix everything, humans were already obsessed with playing games. And I mean obsessed going back thousands of years. Archaeologists dug up a board game in ancient Egypt called Senet, and it's over 5,000 years old. 5,000 years. That means while ancient Egyptians were building the pyramids by day, they were going home and talking trash over a board game by night. Some things never change. And it wasn't just Egypt. Ancient Mesopotamia had board games. Ancient China had board games. Ancient Rome had dice games they bet everything on. Even Julius Caesar, one of the most powerful men in human history, was reportedly a massive gambler. Humans have always played. But why? Why is this so deeply wired into us? Here's where it gets genuinely fascinating. Neuroscientists have discovered that when you're playing a game and something good happens, you win a round, you defeat a boss, you score a point, your brain releases dopamine. That's the same chemical that fires when you eat amazing food, when you fall in love, when you achieve something great. Your brain literally rewards you for playing games. But there's more. Games also let us practice skills in a safe environment. Thousands of years ago, young hunters would play fight and compete in athletic games, basically training for survival without the risk of actually getting eaten by a lion. Games were practice for life. Chess? Practice for military strategy. Racing games? Your brain interprets it as real speed and reaction training. First-person shooters? Your spatial awareness and decision-making are genuinely getting sharper. So next time someone tells you that you're wasting time playing video games, you look them dead in the eyes and say, I am engaging in an evolutionarily ingrained neurological reward system that humans have practiced for over 5,000 years. Then immediately go back to your game. Actually, wait. Before we go further, I want to know, what was the first game you ever remember playing? Drop it in the comments right now. Was it Mario? Sonic? Something on a phone? A board game? Tell me everything. I genuinely want to know. Okay, so we've established that humans are fundamentally, biologically, cosmically built to play games. But to understand where video games came from, we need to talk about what came right before them. Because video games didn't appear out of thin air. There was a whole ecosystem of gaming that set the stage, and it was wild. Picture this. It's the 1940s. World War II just ended. America is buzzing with energy. Soldiers coming home. An economic boom. People want to have fun. And everywhere you look, there are arcades. Not the arcades you might be thinking of. Not the ones with Dance Dance Revolution and ticket machines. I'm talking about loud, smoky, neon-lit rooms packed wall-to-wall with pinball machines. Pinball was massive. Like, embarrassingly massive. At its peak, there were over 1 million pinball machines operating across the United States. Teenagers would crowd around them, slam the flipper buttons, tilt the machines trying to cheat. It was the social media of its era. It was a thing. And here's an absolute fact that sounds made up, but is 100% real. Pinball was literally illegal in New York City from 1942 to 1976. I'm serious. City officials decided pinball was a form of gambling that corrupted the youth and wasted money that soldiers needed for the war effort. The NYPD would raid arcades, smash machines with sledgehammers, and haul the owners to court. It took a guy named Roger Sharp, a professional pinball wizard, which is the most incredible job title I've ever heard. It took him demonstrating pinball in front of City Council Committee in 1976, calling his shots like Babe Ruth, to prove that pinball was a game of skill, not chance. They watched him play. They were convinced. And they legalized it on the spot. That is one of the most dramatic moments in gaming history, and nobody talks about it. Roger Sharpe saved pinball with a single legendary performance. Respect. But while pinball was ruling the arcades, something was brewing quietly in laboratories and university basements. Scientists, people who were supposedly working on serious things, kept getting distracted building games on their computers. And one of them was about to accidentally change the world forever. All right, this is the moment you clicked for, the very beginning, the first video game ever made. And I have to be honest with you up front. This is one of the most argued about questions in all of gaming history. Historians fight about this. Nerds on Reddit fight about this. I will tell you what happened, and by the end, you can decide what you believe. Let's start in 1947. Two engineers named Thomas T. Goldsmith Jr. and Ethel Ray Mann invented something they called a cathode ray tube amusement machine. Roll that name around in your mouth for a second. The cathode ray tube amusement machine. These guys were not marketers. Here's what it was. A radar screen, the kind used in World War II to track aircraft, that you could point a beam at targets overlaid on the screen. You control a knob that adjusted the trajectory of the beam. The targets were literally paper cutouts taped onto the screen. You were trying to hit them. Now, is that a video game? The display was electronic. There was a player. There was a goal. There was interaction. But there were no pixels, no software, just a radar beam and paper targets. What do you think? Drop it in the comments. Yes or no? Fast forward to 1950. A computer scientist named Alan Turing. And if you've seen The Imitation Game, you know this guy. He designed a chess-playing program on paper, because the computers of the era couldn't actually run it. He had to manually simulate the computer's moves himself by hand, like a human pretending to be a machine. Alan Turing, the man who helped crack the Nazi Enigma code and arguably shortened World War II, spent his spare time playing pretend chess against himself as a computer. Absolute legend. Then we get to 1952. At Cambridge University. And this is where I personally believe the story really begins. A PhD student named Alexander Douglas needed to write his thesis about human-computer interaction. And to demonstrate his thesis, he built a game. He built OXO, a graphical version of tic-tac-toe that you could play against a computer. You entered your move on a rotary telephone dial. The computer calculated its response, and the results showed up on a screen. For the very first time, a human sat down, interacted with computer as an opponent, and played a game with graphics displayed on a screen. The computer was thinking. The human was playing. It was real. But here's the thing. OXO was never sold, never distributed. It ran on one single computer at Cambridge that almost nobody had access to. It was a thesis project. Douglas submitted his paper, graduated, and the game basically disappeared from history. Then 1958. A physicist named William Higginbotham at Brookhaven National Laboratory, a government nuclear research facility, by the way, was tasked with making the lab's annual public open house. Less boring. I love that this is the origin story. A nuclear scientist was told, "Our open house is too boring. Fix it." And his solution was to invent one of the first interactive video games. He built Tennis for Two, a simple tennis simulation displayed on an oscilloscope screen, where two players could volley a bouncing back and forth over a net. Each player had a controller, a box with a knob to adjust angle and a button to hit. Visitors at the open house went absolutely insane for it. Lines stretched out the door. People waited for hours to play. Some came back the next year just to play it again. And Higginbotham? He disassembled it after the open house. He patented nothing. He considered it a minor curiosity, not a major invention. He went back to doing nuclear physics. The man invented one of the first video games, and then just went back to work like it was nothing. William, what are you doing? But the Big Bang moment, the one that truly launched the video game industry, came in 1962 at MIT, and it involved a game called Space War. A group of MIT students, led by a brilliant programmer named Steve Russell, spent hundreds of hours building a space combat game on a massive, refrigerator-sized computer called the PDP. 1, 2 spaceships, gravity from a central star, torpedoes. You were trying to destroy your opponent while not crashing into the star. Space War was the first game that spread. Other universities got PDP-1 computers, and copies of Space War came with them, passed from campus to campus on paper tape. Because the internet didn't exist yet, programmers would stay up all night playing and modifying it. This was literally the first gaming community, the first modding scene, the first just one more game at 3 in the morning. And a young entrepreneur saw Space War on a computer at Stanford and had an idea that would turn all of this into a billion-dollar industry. Okay, let's zoom out for a second, because I don't want this to just be a history lesson. I want you to feel what this story means. Think about where we started. Ancient Egyptians playing Senate by torchlight 5,000 years ago. Roman soldiers rolling dice in the dirt. Teenagers in the 1940s getting arrested for playing pinball. And then, in the span of about 15 years, a handful of scientists, grad students, and curious tinkerers working on the biggest, most expensive, most inaccessible computers on the planet started making games. Nobody told them to. Nobody commissioned it. There was no market. There was no industry. There was no money in it. They built games because humans build games. It is what we do. We take whatever tools we have. A papyrus board, a radar screen, a $120,000 university, computer the size of a refrigerator, and we find a way to play. And the people who built those first games, they had no idea what they were starting. William Higginbotham took tennis for 2 apart and went back to his nuclear research. Alexander Douglas got his PhD and moved on. Steve Russell and his friends at MIT just wanted to see if they could do it. None of them knew they were lighting a fuse on industry that would one day be worth $250 billion, more than Hollywood and the music industry combined. They just wanted to play. And 60-something years later, here you are, watching a video about it, maybe on a phone that has more computing power than those early MIT computers times a million. Maybe after putting down your own controller, maybe about to pick it back up. You are the latest link in a chain that goes back to ancient Egypt. That goes back to the very first time a human being looked at another human being and said, "Hey, you want to play a game? Pretty cool, right?" All right, that is episode 1 of Video Game History. We cover why humans are literally built to play games. Next episode, we're talking about the birth of the arcade era, Atari, Pong, the moment video games left the university basement and hit the streets. It is an insane story involving lawsuits, stolen ideas, and a guy who sold a share of what would have been a billion-dollar company for $800. I wish I was joking. If you want to see that episode, hit subscribe right now. New episodes drop every week. And seriously, go drop a comment. Tell me what your first ever video game was. Tell me whether you think the 1947 cathode ray machine counts as a video game. Tell me if I got anything wrong. I am not above being corrected by someone with a Wikipedia tab open. This is Video Game History. And I'll see you in the next one.